So what I want to show you today is about the pronouns in English. And let me see, I'm trying to share the screen with you. Okay, here, can you see?
Yes, I can see.
Yes. So, let me see if I can make this, yes. The pronouns, why I want to show you, just to show you the difference between them and how and when we use each one. Maybe you will already know this, but maybe some specific things, let's see what you know, what you don't know, what questions you have, okay? So we have here, not everything is a pronoun, right? But it's easier to look at them like this to help us understand the differences and when to use them. So we have the subject pronouns, the object pronouns, the possessive adjectives, and the possessive pronouns. The possessive adjectives are the only ones who are not really pronouns. But it's easier to have them here so we can see how to use them and to compare them with the possessive pronouns, right? Because they all show the possession. And here, just a parenthesis really quick. I know that you know this, but it's always worth mentioning, right? Like the difference between the subject and the object pronouns, right? The subject pronouns we use to show who is doing the action, right? Who is performing the action. And the object pronouns are always the ones who receive the action, right? So we use the subject pronouns before verbs, right? So let me see how I can write this. Yes, here, like this. The subject pronouns we use the subject pronouns before verbs, and we use the object pronouns after verbs and prepositions. Can you see this? Too small? After verbs and prepositions, right? Because the subject pronouns perform the action, they do the action, and the object pronouns receive the action, right? So the object pronouns, let me see if I can do something here. How do we do this? Center. So the subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they, right?
Yeah.
Basic, right? We have the first person, right? We have singular and plural. So until it's here, this part's here, from here to here, this is the singular. And from here to here is the plural. One thing that I like to mention is that you, we have you in the singular and the plural. They are not different, right, at all. And the conjugations of the verbs and everything is always the same. We only know that we're using you singular or you plural depending on the context of the sentence, of the situation. Then you know if it's singular or plural, right? And in English, we have the third person, right? Singular. We have he, she, it. And it we use for we use for the weather, right? It is sunny today. It is cold today. We talk about the weather. In English, we don't have what we have in Portuguese, right? Like sujeito oculto, sujeito indeterminado, like está sol, está frio, that we just say the verb and what we want to say it. In English, we cannot say is cold, is sunny. It is wrong to say that. So we need to use it. When you don't know what the subject is, if it's singular, use it in the sentence. The verb can never be alone, right? And we also use it for animals for objects, right? Especially animals that are not your pets. If you see a cow on the street, you can say, it is white, for example. But if it's my cat, I don't say it. I say he or she because it's my animal, right? Okay. And one thing about it too that sounds a little weird for us is that people refer to babies as it, especially in the belly of the mother. You know, like before it is born. So before it is born, and normally, especially when people don't know the gender yet, don't know if it's a she or a he, so they will say, how's the baby? How is it? You know, so in English, it's you're not calling the baby an object, right? It's not like that. It's okay. It's normal. Okay. And for the plural, right, we have we, right, the plural of I, you is the plural of you, and they is the plural of all the third person in the singular. So he, she, it becomes they. It doesn't matter if you are talking about the cows. One cow, it's two cows, they. Two books, they. So it's always the plural for the third person. I know that in Portuguese and Spanish, right, we have one plural for he, one plural for she, right? But in English, no, it's always, it's like unisex, it's independent on the gender. Okay? Questions here?
No questions.
No questions, okay. So now let's look at the object pronouns, right? For example, for the subject pronouns, we say, let's think about a sentence where we can have the object and the subject. I can say, I call you every day, right? It's like this. I call you every day. I am the subject. I am the person who performs the action. Who calls you every day? I call you every day, right? But who do I call? Who receives the call? Who receives my action? You, right? So you are the object pronoun. So we use it after verbs, like here, call is a verb. Or for example, we can say, give the book to Mary, for example. Give the book to Mary. To is a preposition, right? If I don't want to say give the book to Mary, I have to use an object pronoun instead of Mary, right? And that's when where some people make mistakes because they say give the book to she. For example, they substitute the Mary here with a subject pronoun. But it has to be the object pronouns and not the subject. So let's see what they are, right? So do you know what the object pronoun for I is?
Me.
Me. Mm-hmm. Yes, good. You.
You.
You. Yes. He.
He.
He is him. I don't know. Yes, him. Yes.
He.
When I change the screen, I don't see you.
Okay.
Yeah. So him, he,
Her.
him, she. Yes, her, it.
It's.
It is it.
It's it.
It.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We.
Them. No.
We. Us.
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 Yes. You. And they. Them. Them.
Okay.
Yes. So this one, it changes a little bit, right? So I, me, you, he, him, she, her, it doesn't change. We, us, you, and they, them. one thing here that is important to notice is the pronunciation, especially of him and them, because we have the M at the end, right? So we have to say him and them. Them.
Okay.
Yes.
Him, them.
Them. Yeah, close the mouth at the end. So you can say, give the book to me, or give me the book. She called us.
He called us.
Yes. We talked to them. Right? And then you have, these are the object pronouns. So always receiving the action after verbs and prepositions.
Okay.
So normally in a sentence, we see the subject and the object pronouns, right? In different parts of the sentence. So the subject always before the verb, doing the action, and the object pronouns always receiving the action after the verbs and the prepositions. Always after prepositions and verbs, we always use the object pronouns. This is a rule to remember, you know. When you see a preposition, you have to use the object pronouns.
Okay. Give me a minute, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, any questions here?
No questions.
Okay.
Understand.
So now we're moving on to the possessive adjectives and the possessive pronouns. What I like to think about here before is like, what is an adjective, right? An adjective qualifies something, gives a characteristic to something. The pronoun substitutes the noun, right? Substitutes the name. We always use the pronoun in the place of the name instead of the name. And now the possessive adjectives, no, they always come before the name in English, right? Or before the noun. So we always say, for example, big house, old tree, right? We always say first the adjective and then what we are talking about. With the possessive adjectives, it's the same thing. It is an adjective here that it doesn't really give a characteristic such as old or new or big or small, but what it does is it tells us who that thing belongs to, right? Who is the owner of that thing? So in this case, this is the type of adjective, right? It lets us know who the owner of something is, and that's why it's called an adjective, because it's going to show us the possession, but also because it comes before the noun. So we say, for example, we say my computer, your cell phone, his car, right? So it's always first the possessive, right? And then what we are talking about. That's why it's called an adjective, because it comes before the noun. Okay, always before it. So the possessive adjectives here, can you help me fill the charts?
Okay.
My, yes. You.
Your.
Good. He.
His.
Good. She.
Her.
Yes.
Her.
It's. Yes, with S. Good. We.
Our.
Yes. You. Your. And they. Their. Okay. There. Yes. So here there's this thing about pronunciation, right? Because my, your, his, her, its, our, your, and their. It's common for us I would say Brazilians, but you're not. But it's a maybe it's a South American thing that we pronounce it there, right? We look at this and we think it's there. But the pronunciation of this is the same thing as there.
Ah, okay.
Here, there. It's the
There.
same pronunciation. Yes. And also, it's the same pronunciation, you know, of they are. They are when we, oh my God, abbreviate. There's another word. What's the word? I forgot.
Contraction?
Yes, yes, thanks. When we contract they are, we also tend to say they are, but it's not necessarily wrong to say they are, but the correct pronunciation is there.
Yeah.
There.
Okay.
So all of these here we pronounce the same way. It's all there. There. Their car. You can say they're there. You can say, for example, this sentence here. They're there in their car. Yes.
Their car. Yeah.
They're there in their car. Yes. Same pronunciation, different words. They're there in their car. Yes. And we pronounce it like this, right? Like the words hour for time, but it's very common, and especially in long sentences when you listen to natives speaking, more fluently. They don't make all these sounds like our. They say kind of like our. It's our house. It's not necessarily like or, like we say here or there. It's not like this or. It's more like our. So they say, this is our house. Our house. I don't even know how to write it in a way that makes sense. Maybe like this. Our. It's
Okay.
more like, it's like, this is our house. So they don't go for all the sounds of like our, so it's more like our house, our house.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens here is with the possessive adjectives, we are always going to use them before the name, right? So we always need here, we need something. My, your. It always has to be followed by a word, by a noun. I cannot finish a sentence like this. Because with the possessives, we use the question whose, right? Whose. So we say, for example, whose is it? Or whose is this pen, for example? Or whose pen is it? So this is the question that we ask when we want to know the owner of something. So we say whose. Whose is it? Whose is this pen? Whose pen is it? Or whose car is that? So now I can say, for example, that car is my car, or that is my car. I always have to, here you see it's kind of redundant, right? Like that car is my car, or that is my car. But I can never say, for example, like this, that is my,
Yes.
or that car is my. I can never do this. Why? Because after my, I need the words, I need the noun. And so I cannot say that. So when I don't want to repeat it, when I don't want to be redundant and I don't want to keep saying the same thing all over again, and I just want to say that it's mine and that's it, I go for the possessive pronouns, okay? Because they substitute everything. The possessive pronouns, the pronouns, what do pronouns do? Pronouns substitute the noun, right? In this case, the possessive pronouns, what they do is they substitute it's kind of like this. We have my car, right? The possessive pronoun will substitute the adjective and the noun. That's why it's a possessive pronoun. You can put it in the place of that. So you don't need to say the noun again. And we have a different way to say the possessive. In this case, the possessive pronouns can be used at the end of the sentence or in other places. So, do you know the possessive pronouns? My,
Yes.
mhm,
Mind. Uh,
mine,
your,
yours,
yours.
yes,
Uh,
his is his, yes.
his,
She,
her,
hers. This
hers,
one, we basically put it's no S. We add an S, you know? So yours. His is already his. Her, hers. It's.
his,
Yes, ours.
ours,
Yeah, yours, and
theirs,
theirs. Theirs. Yes, these are the possessive pronouns. So the possessive pronouns, they substitute everything. So for example, I can say, whose car is that? We can say, that car is mine.
okay,
Yes, or it's mine. But I can never say, for example, that is mine car. For example, no,
yeah,
this is super
okay,
wrong because mine already has the car inside, you know, kind of like it's already there. So it's very common to say, for example, one question is like, how do you like your coffee? For example, right? Do you like your coffee black or with sugar, with milk? How do you like your coffee? And you can say, I like my coffee black, for example. Or you can say, I like mine black.
okay. I like
Yes,
mine black.
because mine will substitute all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens with the possessive pronouns is that they will substitute the adjective and the noun. Always like that. So, after you can have other words after, right? The sentence doesn't need to end here. But what I cannot have after the pronoun is the noun. Never. Like I like mine coffee black. No, I like mine black. Or whose book is that? That book is mine, or that is mine, and it's great, right? You can continue the sentence, it doesn't have to end there, but you can never say book again, right? So what you need to remember is just that. So, I noticed that this is something that because we don't have I don't know in Spanish, but in Portuguese we don't have two ways to say that. We say é meu ou é meu carro, right? We don't have a specific way to say this meu é meu, right? To finish and we can never say it's my in English. So we have two different ways to say the same thing depending on where we put it in the sentence. Because the possessive adjective is an adjective, it needs to come before the noun. And the pronoun will always substitute both the adjective and the noun. So then it's just one thing, right? We just use one thing,
Yeah.
and it's everything.
Yes, in Spanish it's similar with English because
You
I
have
say
to.
mi carro es negro. El carro negro es mío.
Mio. So you
Change
have
the
you change it a little bit, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. It's how to do it. I like to show this in this way to have all of them together at the same time because it helps us to look at them more specifically and see the differences. You know,
Okay.
because the basis is the subject pronouns, right? And then we derive everything from there, but it can they have some differences. And the pronunciation that is always nice to remember, right? That if it ends in M, like him and them, close your mouth, right? And for our and their, right? I, this hour, it's okay to say it's not wrong, but it's nice to know that it is sometimes pronounced in a different way, especially when you are listening to something, because it can sound like or, and then we think that they are not using. They're not using the possessive, they're saying something else. So it's nice to pay attention when you're watching series or movies to notice how they say it. They say, "I know we're going to our house, our house, our house." You know,
Mhm.
this is our place, and not exactly our, right? And there. It's always
There,
there,
there, there. Okay.
there. Yes. And the possessive pronouns, you basically add s. Just mine changes, right? Like my, mine. But the rest, if you have an S, it's you've done it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I would like to ask you maybe to write something using them. I don't know how you feel. Maybe you can create a short story or uh, try to it doesn't have to be a story that connects, could be different sentences, right, using some of these pronouns,
Okay.
so we can see how you do it, you know, using them in, you know, for real. It can be you describing something, telling a story, or short sentences, you know.
Okay. I'm following.
And you can play with the verb tenses too, because this is a nice way for us to check, you know, if you want to use the past, the present, the future, you know, like mix and match a little bit. We can see correct and take a look at how you're doing with the verb tenses.
Okay. This is homework, right?
Homework, yes, you
Okay.
can do it for next class.
Okay. Okay. I do it. I will do it.
I'll do it, yes.
I'll do it.
Okay,
Okay.
Dana, thank you so much. Thank
Bye
you. Bye
bye.
bye.